All right, all ready? I'm going to show you tonight how we do real estate without, oh, there I am. Hello. So how we get started in real estate. Oh, can y'all hear me? Let me get my mic close to you, close to me. And I'm going to shut that down and get started. All right. So tonight we're talking about real estate. I'm always talking about real estate. I'm all real estate all the time. If you want to listen to my podcast, all real estate all the time. And we'll just nerd out on real estate. But if you want to find out how to get started tonight, stay tuned because I'm going to teach you about lease options. I'm going to teach you about owner financing. And I'm going to teach you how to buy houses with cash for those of you that have cash that want to buy houses and do a little bit buy and hold. So let's get rocking and rolling. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story first, and then we're going to go into the basics of a lease option. So if you don't know what a lease option is, or you don't know what owner financing is, or I've already confused you when I told you about buying houses with cash and then buying and holding them, hang out. I promise I will answer your questions. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments. If I don't answer them by the end of this presentation, I promise that I will answer your questions. So it all started for me with Victor Jernigan. He's the president of the Knox RIA, the Real Estate Investors Association, and I joined. He told me like the week after I joined that they were going to have a special presentation on lease options, and I told him that I was a real estate agent. I didn't need to learn anything else about real estate. I was good. I also told him that I was down to my last $75 because I'd been buying houses all summer and I'd gone broke trying to get rich. Victor told me that he knew how I could make tons of money and that he thought I would be perfect to get into lease options. So I listened to him, thankfully. And then he created a monster, okay? This picture was taken about 2 years after I first learned about lease options and owner financing. And within 2 years, I'd completed over like 50 some odd deals. And I'd completed some really cool stuff, but I'd also started teaching other people about lease options because, frankly, the information out there about real estate investing is kind of old and slow and boring, and I am not. So let me teach you tonight about real estate investing my way. If you don't know, my name is Whitney Nicely. I am a traveler. I just adore going on trips. I'm a real estate broker for Whitney Buys Houses. I do teach people how to get into real estate investing. I'm a dog mom to Abby the Labby, but most importantly, I am a real estate investor. I know, I don't fit the mold. I'm not old enough, I'm not male, and I'm sure shit not boring. But I'm a real estate investor. And I'm going to tell you a lot of different stories tonight on how I got started and how you can start doing these deals also. So I grew up in Powell, Tennessee, which is north of Knoxville. It's just a little dinky town. Our band played Rocky Top every time we got a touchdown. We thought we were little UT, and I was actually in the band. I was in the color guard. So you see the girls there with the flags? That was me in high school. My mom and dad were real estate investors, and ever since I could remember, my mom has had rental houses, and my dad has always flipped cars or flipped four-wheelers or flipped motorhomes or, whatever he could find. He was always a hustler, and he'd be flipping stuff, and mom would use the money that he made flipping to buy real estate. That's a picture of all of us in front of a machine. My mom also has a dump truck company. So I come from a long line of real estate investors and small business owners. But my mom and dad, what's really special about them is my dad was an engineer on the railroad. He blew the horn on the train, and my mom worked for her family company. So we weren't like some really special, amazing family. I had some, glimpses into my future as I was growing up because they did have houses that they rented out. But it wasn't, all these great things handed down to me. I had to figure out a lot of it on my own. So after I graduated from college, I went to UT in Knoxville. I graduated in 2007. I started working for the family company, and I started out as the head miner. I taught our dump truck drivers how to be surface miners and go pick up loads of gravel. And then I started flipping dump trucks. And suddenly I became my mom. And that's not a bad thing. My mom is really awesome. But one thing I hadn't figured out yet is I was working the same job as my mom. I was in the same office. We were wearing the same outfits, and I was literally becoming my mom. Except one day I saw her cashing checks, making a deposit to go to the bank. And I was like, wait a second, Mom, what are those extra checks? What is that? And she was like, well, I rent these houses out and people pay us every month to live in them. And I was like, well, wait a second, how do I get mailbox money? I want somebody just to pay me once a month and I don't really have to do anything for it. And she was like, well, you got to go buy something. I was like, go buy something? How am I going to go buy something? I'm making like $24,000 a year. I'm trying to, live on my own and have some fun, and I'm in my 20s. How am I going to go buy something? So I figured out there had to be a better way. My mom has always been a buy and hold investor, where you save up a bunch of money and then you go buy whatever you can afford and rent it back out. But that wasn't going to work for me. I needed something a little bit different. I needed a plan. I needed a strategy. I needed something that somebody could really give me some guidance on, because my mom basically said, just go figure it out. So that's when I joined the Real Estate Investor Association, and I started hanging out with real estate investors who were actively buying and selling and who had a plan. They had a strategy. They knew what they were doing. That's how I ended up at the RIA, where Victor invited me to go to the lease option training. So when I started learning about lease options, I came home, I was so excited, and I was like, Mom, oh my gosh, you don't have to use your money to buy real estate anymore. I've figured out lease options, or at least I've learned about lease options now. And her first question to me was, Whitney, is this illegal? Like, are you sure this is okay? Are people really doing this? Like, how does this even work? And I was like, you know what? I don't even know yet, Mom, but I'm going to figure it out. And that's what I did. This is a picture of the second house that I ever got under contract. I'll show you the first house in a minute. And this was a fantastic house. The second one I got under contract. It was my first flip all by myself, and I found this house off Facebook. I was telling everybody on Facebook that I buy houses, and I was showing them pictures, and I was telling them I was making offers, and I was doing all this stuff. And actually, one of my cousins was following me on Facebook, and he sent me a message. He was like, hey, Whit, I've got an empty house. I don't want it. It's pretty dated, but if you want to do something with it, knock yourself out. So I'd been flipping with my mom and dad for like the last 4 or 5 years, and I was ready to take on my own project. And this was the first kitchen that I flipped. We took it from a prison boring white to shabby chic. And this house was in Powell, Tennessee. This house was back in my hometown, and I felt like I had finally arrived. Little did I know, it was just the beginning of my arrival. So when I figured out there had to be a better way, I didn't just jump into these deals, right? I went to lots of training events. I went to the one in Knoxville, and then I hauled my tail down to Jacksonville, Florida, so that I could learn from Ron LeGrand and Jay Connor how to really get these deals done and put them in a system. That picture on the bottom, on the left, that's Jason. And when I went to these seminars, I started going to these boot camps. The only thing that he had to say to me was that he didn't agree. He'd seen people go to these workshops and go to these guru seminars and go do these things and go do those things and sink a whole bunch of money in some training and then get nothing out of it. He told me I had church camp mentality, that whatever it was I was learning wouldn't work when I got back home, and I'd wasted my time, I'd wasted my energy, and I'd wasted my money on this experience. I finally had enough of it. He told me that for a year. I was doing deals. I was 6 or 7 or 9 or 10, I don't even remember, deals in. I'd almost made $100,000. And he was still telling me that it all been a fluke and that it wasn't sustainable. And I finally got good and mad, and I told him to go back to Georgia. We were sitting in a Krispy Kreme parking lot. I was on my way to an open house to try to sell, I think, my 10th house of the year. And he was giving me down the road again that I was wasting my time and my energy and that I'd just been lucky so far. I told him to go home and not call me ever again because I didn't need that kind of negativity in my life. Now, I know you don't really care about my love story. You don't really care about all this stuff. You want to know about the real estate, right? Isn't that what you want to know? If you're ready to learn about the real estate, give me a yes in the comments. Say yes, yes, yes. So before I continue on my little love story, I do want your permission. I am a huge real estate nerd, all the way from the beginning, okay? So if it's okay with you, tell me yes in the comments again if it's okay if I nerd out on you and really get into the real estate. Now that you got my backstory, now that you really understand where I come from, I want to show you the real estate deals. Are you ready? Give me a yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. All right. I love it. All right. So this is a little slideshow of probably 20 of my first deals. And all of these houses have stories to go along with them. But don't worry, I won't bore you with all of the little details. I'm just going to highlight a few of my favorite deals so that you can see it's possible. All right. And I'm going to show you the opportunities are all around you. All you got to do is get started. You got to get rolling. And then, 2 or 3 years later, you could be running around taking selfies in front of 20 different houses that you'd made a whole lot of money on. But we'll get to the money in a minute. So I have a few rules. And I learned these rules by buying houses. When I started, I didn't have any rules. I didn't have any guidelines. I was taking anything and everything I could get. But I learned things the hard way. So I'm going to tell you what my rules are, and you don't have to abide by my rules. Or you can try it your way and then come back in a couple months and say, you know what, Whit? I like your rules. I'm going to use them now too. So rule number 1 is don't fall in love. These houses don't have to be your primary house, all right? They're investment houses. They need to be nice enough for somebody else to move into. No agents. Yes, I have a real estate license, but no, you don't need a license to do these deals. My license gets in my way a lot, actually, and last month I filed to retire it. So I'm actually just waiting on the paperwork to come back that says I am a retired broker for Whitney Buys Houses. That's right. I retired at 33. Another rule is that the house needs to be current on payments. I don't deal with the F word, foreclosure. I don't deal with people that are behind on payments. I either need the house to be free and clear or current on payments. The most important rule, we saved the best for last, is that the house needs to be empty. It needs to be vacant. I don't want anything there except dust bunnies. Now that we know the rules, let's talk about a lease option. What is that? So basically, a lease option is a really fancy rental agreement with the opportunity to buy the property in the future. It's just the opportunity to buy the house in the future. It's a really fancy rental agreement. So let me ask you, do you know anybody that has a house that they have a mortgage on? Say yes in the comments if you know anybody that owns a house and they have a mortgage on the house. Say yes. All right. So now if the person who had this mortgage on this house, if they decided they wanted to rent that house, would that be weird? No, it wouldn't. Nobody has a problem with people renting a house if they have a mortgage on it. Now, these people that you have in mind with the mortgage on their house, if they decided they wanted to sell their house, would that be weird? No, that wouldn't be weird at all. Nobody would have a problem with anybody wanting to sell a house that they had a mortgage on it currently. It's not a problem. So, nobody has a problem with lease options because it's a really fancy rental agreement with the opportunity to buy the property in the future. That's it. Doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. Well, let's take it just a little bit further and make it just a little bit complicated. Because a lease option is one thing, and I buy houses with a lease option, but I also sell houses with a lease option. That means I've created a sandwich lease option. I bought it with a lease option, and I'm selling it with a lease option. Now, the only way that mathematically works is if you buy with a long amount of time before you have to purchase it, maybe 5 or 10 years. And then you can sell on a lease option and do the sandwich lease option if you give your tenant buyers a shorter amount of time, maybe just 1 or 2 years. Now, this is the point when people always start saying, but Whitney, what about subject to? What about a wraparound mortgage? How do we do those? I can hear you right now. That's what you wanted to ask, right? Right? Did somebody already put that in the comments? I know this is the next question. So subject to is when you are buying the property subject to the existing mortgage staying in the seller's name, but the title transfers to your name. Now, when the title gets transferred to your name, that's when the banks start to lose their minds, and that's when they want to call the hold note due. They want to enact the due on sale clause. I can't sleep at night worried about whether or not a bank's going to call my note due. So I don't do subject to deals. I do lease options because it gives me as much paperwork. It clouds the title if I file it with the county. It does everything I need it to do except get the bank's panties in a wad. That's completely unnecessary. So I don't do subject to deals. Now let's talk about a wraparound. A wraparound mortgage is where there's a mortgage on the property and then you create a new mortgage that wraps around the old mortgage. All right, y'all ever wrapped up a baseball in a new glove? That's what it's like. The ball is the existing mortgage and then you put the glove, the new mortgage, around it and you've created a wraparound mortgage. I don't do those because it's just unnecessary. Again, it makes it look like on, the paper trails that, gosh, if this is a $100,000 house and there's a $100,000 mortgage in the seller's name, and then somebody else has created another mortgage and wrapped it around it, and now there's another $100,000 mortgage on it, why is there $200,000 leaned up on this house? It just gets confusing and it's just not worth it. So I don't do confusing and complicated. I do simple and sweet. And that's what a lease option is. All right. So we can buy houses with a lease option and we'll tell the seller that it'll take us 5 or 10 years to cash them out. But in the meantime, we'll be making their payments. No problem. Then we can sell on a lease option and we'll have somebody move into the house for us and they'll give us money to move in. They'll make our payments for us every month. And then they're going to pay a premium for that property. We're also going to only give them 1 or 2 years to buy this house from us. That way, if we've got 5 or 10 years with our seller, we could go through 5 or 10 different people in this property. I'll show you how that works later. So, your next question probably is, who in their right mind would agree to a lease option? So this is the very first house that I got under lease option. And the story was these people had bought this house as their retirement house. Then their daughter came home pregnant. The house wasn't big enough for 4 people, and they had to go. They didn't want to list it. They didn't want to deal with the stress of it. They just wanted to go. So I told them I would start making their payments for them so that they could go and rent somewhere else and focus on the new baby that was on their way. I would make the payments. I would buy it for what they owed on it, and they could go on and live their life. All I needed was them to make the payments for 3 months, and then I would start making the payments on the 4th month. Well, I'm telling y'all, that was the last day of February. My payments were due the 1st of June. And in the middle of March, I found a couple that was willing to buy the house from me for what I was asking. I had it under contract. I was buying it for $122,000. And I had a couple out of Chicago that offered me $135,000 for the house. But the deal was they were selling a house in Chicago, and they didn't know how long it would take to sell it. So I told them that they could rent this house. They could go ahead and move to Tennessee, rent this house from me, and as soon as their house in Chicago sold, then we just close on this one. They said, that sounds perfect. We'll start paying you now. So they started paying me rent in March. They paid April. They even paid May in advance. They gave me $3,000 the first time I met these people and agreed to buy the house for $135,000 and pay me $1,000 a month until their house in Chicago sold. Y'all, their house in Chicago went under contract the next week, and it closed the beginning of May. They gave me $135,000, 3 months rent in advance, all before I even had a payment due. So I made $13,000 in the difference between $122,000, what I bought the property for, and $135,000, what they agreed to pay me. But I also got 3 months rent in advance because I didn't have a payment due until June, and this thing closed in May. I had no money invested. Well, I had $10 invested, but practically no money. You have to have some money invested. $10 or $100 will do. You have to have money invested in the deal. Okay, that's very important. But nobody checked my credit. Nobody verified that I made enough to do this. I was helping some sellers, and then I was helping some buyers. I made the process super simple and super sweet for everybody, and I got a really good payday for that effort. Here's another house that I bought on lease option. I had some bandit signs out, and I'll show you what a bandit sign is in a minute. I had a bandit sign out that said, for rent or rent to own, 3-bedroom, 2-bath in New Market, Whitney buys houses, and my phone number. I had it at a 4-way stop in New Market. Well, some dude called me and he said, hey, I got a house in New Market. It's only 2 bedrooms. No, how many bedrooms? 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. No, 2 baths. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I get confused sometimes. He said, I've got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in New Market, just like your sign says. And your sign says you buy houses, so I'm going to be at your office in 10 minutes, and you can buy the house from me. I'll sell it to you for what I owe on it. Okay. So sure enough, he showed up in 10 minutes. He was there with me for 10 minutes. He probably asked 2 or 3 questions. I told him the same thing. If you'll make the payments for the next 3 months, I'll make them on the 4th month. I'll buy it for what you owe on it, and you can just leave. And he did. He was so happy because this guy was getting divorced, and neither one of them wanted to have anything to do with this house. I made $10,000 on this house in less than 3 months when people moved into it. And I've been making $250 a month on it every month since 2015. Yeah, this one happened in 2015. And I got word yesterday, like seriously, yesterday, that the people that moved into this house got pre-approved for their mortgage. So by the end of June or July, I'll be making another $10,000 on this house with no money invested except that pesky little $10 again. Nobody checked my credit, no banks, nothing. Just helping a seller get rid of a house and helping a buyer get into a house. Then we have this little house. This one was a for sale by owner. There was a red and white sign in the front yard that said for sale by owner, which practically looks like a Target to me. So I was driving for dollars. I saw the sign. I called and I met with the lady. I made her 3 offers on this house. And y'all, she told me no. She said, no, I don't want to do any of these offers. I'll just keep it. I said, all right, well, if something changes, let me know. So in a month, she called me back and she said, are you still interested in taking over these payments for me? I said, yeah, it'll be about 3 months before I can do them, but that's no problem. She said, okay, let's do it. Come back out here and bring me your paperwork. So this lady had lost her husband and she'd remarried. All right. So when she remarried, her new husband didn't want to move into her old husband's house. Y'all know anybody like that? I know I sure didn't want to move into Jason's old wife's house when we got married. So I got the house and I made $5,000. Whitney, why would you only make $5,000? This house looks bigger than the last 2. Oh, it is bigger than the last 2 houses. This house is 5 bedrooms and 2 baths. Why did I take $5,000 on this house and not 10 or 15 or something amazing? Because I got scared. I was coming up on those 3 months and I was going to have to make the 4th month payment and I couldn't get anybody else to give me any more money. So I accepted $5,000 and they moved in just in time to start making those payments for me. And it wasn't 6 months later that these people stopped making the payment to me. I had to evict the people that moved into this house. That was a long, drawn-out process. It took me 2 or 3 months, 4 months probably. I spent all of that $5,000 that they gave me making the payment to the seller, right? Because I told them I would start making the payments, and it hurt. So you know what I did? I put somebody else in that house and they gave me $15,000 because I wasn't scared anymore. I knew what I was doing. I had a better plan in place and I was better at marketing. I was better at everything. So when I got ready to sell this thing a second time, because this puppy boomeranged on me, all right? It came back. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. They gave me $15,000. The second people gave me $15,000 to move in to this house. They moved in the last weekend of January. They gave me $15,000 the last weekend of January. They moved in the first weekend of February, and they got married on Valentine's Day. All right? The second people that moved into this house. They gave me $15,000. They moved in, and then they got married, all in 3 weekends, right? Well, by July 4th, they were divorced. By Labor Day, neither one of them were living in the house again. So the house came back to me again. And I sold it. I made $12,000 in December. Another guy gave me $12,000 so that he could move in. He's been there for 6 months now. He's supposed to get his mortgage in December. He had a year to get his mortgage. So far on this house, even though I learned a whole lot of lessons on this house, I'm still $15,000 and $12,000 to the good. That's $27,000 that I've made on this house, not including the monthly income that I've made on it, with $10 invested. All right. The lesson on this house is don't take less than $10,000 because you can find somebody. And the more money they give you to move in, the more likely they're going to be there and stay there and actually buy the house from you. Don't take little bits of money. That's what I learned here. So those are 3 examples of 3 very different people that had life-motivated situations as to why they wanted to do a lease option. It worked for them. And those are 3 tenant buyers, 4 or 5 tenant buyers that I actually got to work with on these deals. All right. So a lease option is a really fancy rental agreement with the opportunity to buy the property in the future. That's what a lease option is. We buy houses with lease options and we sell houses with lease options. That makes it a sandwich lease option. Now, what's really cool is this house right here. People ask me all the time, well, you know what? I don't really know that I want to invest in houses, but I'd like to buy my own house with the lease option. Is that possible? Yes, it is. This is a picture of my family standing out in front of our house, or my husband's house, in Georgia. And we bought this brand new from the builder with a lease option. See, what happened was they finished building this house in April. We found it in October. It'd been on the market for 6 months, almost 6 months by the time we found it, and nobody bought it. But since the builder had borrowed private money to build this house, they were having to make interest payments on that money now. So they were paying out every single month. We started talking to them. We said, hey, what if we moved in? We would cover the payment for you plus a little bit so that you'd be making some money. And then we'll buy the house from you as soon as our old house sells. Y'all, the builder loved it. They were so excited. So yes, you absolutely can use lease options on brand new houses, new construction houses. It works there too. Doesn't just have to be on investment properties. This one is mine. All right, so let's talk about cash, because some people have some money and they're not really interested in $10 deals and making an extra 10 or 15,000. Like, that sounds good, but let's talk about some other investing strategies. All right. So cash is using real money to close deals. And no, you don't just go meet people over at Taco Bell and then close the deal. Like, you have to go through an attorney, but you don't have to use banks and you don't have to use financing to get these deals done. This was the first house that I ever bought with cash. This was the main reason that I was broke as a joke when Victor Jernigan told me he needed $75 to teach me about lease options. I bought this house at an auction. And when I bought it, this is house number 1. This is Cedarwood Street. Oop. When I bought it, our final bid was like $30,000. And I started renting it for like $750 a month. Luckily for me, when I started renting it, that's when I figured out how to do some real estate calculations and figure out some formulas. And it came out that it was going to take me like 115 years to get my money back out of this property, renting it at $750 a month. Y'all, that just wasn't going to work. So right about the time these people had been in the house for 6 or 7 months, they got a job transfer. My first renters in this house got transferred 6 months into their year lease. And I was ecstatic. Oh my gosh, I was so excited because I knew as soon as these people left, I would be able to find somebody who would want to do a lease option and move into this house. And that's what I found. I found a guy that gave me $8,000 and started paying me $880 a month for the same property that I didn't have to do anything to. I was back in the money in like 3 years. So what was originally going to take me 115 years took me 3. Which would you rather do? That's what I was thinking. All right, this house was really fun. Let's see if I've got the numbers on this house. So this house was a for sale by owner sign, and I had a lady that was helping me look for sale by owner signs. She sent me a picture, told me about this house, and I went and I made 3 offers on it. I made a cash offer and I made 2 lease option offers that were going to be a lot more money. But the guy that was wanting to sell this house owned a construction company and he needed a new truck. His truck had broke down and he needed a new truck so he could go fulfill his jobs. So he ended up accepting my cash offer on this house so he could go buy a new truck. I bought it for $18,000. I sold it for $32,000 on payments. People started paying me $500 a month with $5,000 as is. Y'all, this house was empty when I found it. It was full of junk, but it was totally empty. It didn't have running water. It did not have electricity. It was just a shell of a house. And I sold it $500 a month with $5,000 down. So now I'm in this house for $13,000, right? Because I got $5,000 right up front as soon as somebody moved in. Those people stayed for 18 months. So $500 a month times 18 months plus the $5K, that's $14,000, right? I only gave 18 for it. They left after 18 months. I sold it again because the first people that moved into this house did some major improvements to it, like put running water in the bathroom, and they figured out how to make the electricity work. They also installed air conditioning in the house and added a third bedroom. All right. So when I got the house back, I sold it in a weekend for $52,000 with, again, $5,000 down and $500 a month. So within 18 months, I had all of my $18,000 back in Hip National Bank, and I was selling it for a, what's 18, 52 minus 18? What kind of profit is that? Plus the $500 a month. I mean, oh my gosh, guys, like, this is a sweet deal. So yes, you can buy houses with cash. And I used option fee money. I showed you on those other houses where I was getting $10,000 and $15,000 every month or so. I used that money to pay off this house. So that still wasn't even exactly my money out of pocket. The second people that moved into this house, they've been there since 2016, and he is supposed to get his mortgage in November to actually buy off the balance of what he owes me of $47,000. That's going to be a really good month, y'all. Oh, I love this deal. Oh my gosh, I just adore this deal. Okay, so you see this little yellow house behind me here? If you can see way back here in the back, I'm going to use my little pointer. You see right there? This house had been on fire. And since I will buy anything and everything, I was out talking to the guy that mows my yard, all right, the lawn guy, yard boy. And I was, saying, hey, do you know anybody that has any houses that they want to get rid of? And he was like, I got 13 houses. And I was like, I'm sorry, you what? He's like, yeah, I got 13 houses. I was like, are any of them empty? Could I buy them? He was like, yeah, I got 2. One's been on fire and one's just really ugly, but you can have them both. And I was like, all right. I said, I'll give you $6,000. I'll pay you $300 a month for however long it takes to pay you $6,000 on each of them. He said, okay, sounds good. So I put a sign in the yard of this house, and I said, all right, y'all, I'll let you rent to own this house from me. Who wants to give me some money to move in, and who will give me $400 a month? The neighbor called me in a week, and they were like, hey, how much are you asking for the house next door? And remember, guys, I'd agreed to pay $6,000 for this house. I told them that I was trying to sell it for $15,000. They said, will you take $12,000? I said, sure. And I was thinking, I'll make $6,000 on it. That sounds pretty good. They said, we want to do the rent to own. We have $5,000 in cash, and we'll pay you $300 a month. I said, hold on. Let me see if I can do that. I called my seller. I said, hey, if I was going to just pay you off on this property and not make you payments for the next however many years, what's the least amount of cash you would take on this property? He said, I'll take $3,000 for it. I said, done. I made $2,000 for buying this house. No, that's not even true. I bought this house for $3,000. I had it sold for $12,000. I made $9,000. I got $2,000 right there in the beginning because they gave me $5,000 to move in. Now, if I was a wholesaler, I would have called my seller and I would have said, hey, how much would you take on this house? And he would have said $3,000. I would have said, great. I got somebody that'll give us $5,000 on it. We'll be done. I'll make $2,000. You get your $3,000 and they can have the house. But I'm not a wholesaler, guys. I'm after that monthly money. I like seeing that $300 coming into my account. So I sold the house to the people that live next door for $12,000 on payments with $5,000 down. and I paid off my seller. I didn't owe him anything. So that $300 is straight in Hit National Bank. That's a really cool deal and a really good example of how you don't need your own cash to make these deals happen. Now, this is on a little sad house. I don't really encourage these deals, but it was a pretty good one. I made $9,000 on a $10 investment. Anybody excited about lease options? Like, when you really understand how this works, you can take cash deals. Maybe you're already a landlord. You're just trying to figure out how to make some extra money with the properties you already have. You can start doing lease options. It's a beautiful, beautiful situation. So now I want to ask you, who in their right mind would agree to a lease option? Have you thought of anybody, as I've been explaining this, that could benefit from a lease option? Have you thought of anybody that should know more about these lease options? Yeah, you should know more about how to do these lease options. So there's 3 secrets that you really need to know about lease options, and I'm going to explain them to you. You have to have a why. You have to have a reason to get into it besides just wanting to make money. You also need to know how to get these leads flowing to you so that you don't drive yourself bonkers trying to chase down all these potential deals. And then you have to let your friends and family in on your plan. And I'll show you how to do that. So my why is, when I was working at the trucking company and I was working for Mom, she wanted me to work on Friday afternoons until 5 o'clock. Isn't that ridiculous? Like, nothing goes on Fridays. And even if something does happen on Fridays, it sure doesn't happen after lunch on Fridays, all right? I had things I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the lake. Sorry, I gotta put my hair up. I wanted to go to the zoo. I wanted to go travel. I wanted to go do anything else besides sit in that office until 5 o'clock on Fridays when the bell rang. Anybody else agree that you'd rather spend Fridays at the lake or at the zoo or doing anything other than working? Yeah, exactly. Of course you would. You've got other things you want to do in your life besides work, 40 hours a week. You need some extra money coming in, and lease options can help you do that. Another why is family. This is a picture of my family, and they're real estate investors, but they did things the old, slow, boring way. And I talked to lots of women who have moms or uncles or somebody who have been investing in real estate, but it's taken them forever to get enough cash flow to be able to retire. And the women that I talk to want to do it in 2 or 3 years. That's what lease options will allow you to do. Lease options will help you get a jump start on the next 40 years of your life so that you don't have to work for those 40. You can play. You can work for 2 or 3 of them and then play for the rest, I guess. So leads. Let's talk about leads. How are you going to find these sellers? Well, this is called a yellow letter. What's up on the screen right now, this is called a yellow letter, and we send these out to people who we think would be interested in getting rid of their property. And maybe you've gotten a yellow letter, maybe you've sent yellow letters before, but I have a few strategies on the yellow letters that really sink down into the hearts of the right kind of motivated sellers. It's not always about the money, guys. It really is not always a factor in the seller's life. I've told you lots of stories right now, and the only one where money was really even a factor was the guy with the construction business who needed to buy a new truck so that he could keep working. Nobody else even really cared about the money. So you need to be able to send out yellow letters. You need to be able to gather leads from people that have life situations happening and not desperate, depressed, disgusting sellers with bad properties. I want you to buy pretty houses. I want you to buy nice houses. I want you to buy fancy houses. I'll help you get your leads on autopilot so that yellow letters may be the only thing you have to do to keep a steady flow of sellers calling you. Now, this is a bandit sign. I told you I got the divorced house off a bandit sign because my bandit signs stand out. You've seen bandit signs before, haven't you, that say, "We buy houses cash." They're on every telephone pole. It's at every four-way stop. And oh my gosh, it's just like it just doesn't work. My bandit signs work. I use a little bit of reverse psychology. I use a little bit of social proof to get my sellers to call off these bandit signs ready to sign my paperwork. If you're putting up bandit signs that just blast out, "We buy houses," that doesn't give your sellers enough reason to call you unless they are motivated by money. There's lots of other sellers out there that you should be getting a hold of. I also teach you how to find a honey hole. And a honey hole doesn't have to be a blob or a subdivision that you take over. A honey hole is where we go to make the money, honey. A honey hole is where you can go and get your deals done fast. A honey hole is where you'll be the queen bee, where everybody's calling you, where you're the biggest and best real estate investor who came, virtually out of nowhere and just took over the town. So this is a picture of my honey hole. And you can see I'm from Knoxville. I grew up in Powell, right up here north of Knoxville. This yellow smiley face is downtown, the city of Knoxville. And all of these pink triangles, those are the houses that I have right now. All right, I've got 15 houses right now, and all of them are these pink triangles. Those red hearts that you see, those are my mom's houses or my mom's deals. And then these black circles, those are my apartments because I also have apartments. I got land, houses, and apartments. So you can see here, my honey hole is basically from right here towards downtown Knoxville and straight out this road. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Hang on. Bless me. Whew, sorry. Give me a drink of water. Okay, ready to rock and roll. So, my honey hole is pretty much a straight line off this 4-lane highway and within a mile either direction. I figured out that if I would go and talk to these sellers and get these deals done out here in the country, Jefferson County, Hamilton County, out here, then I would have enough momentum and experience that I could come back into Knox County and buy some houses right here, right around my house where I lived. And then I got one house out there in Powell because I'm a Powell girl and I want one house back where I'm from. So I've got that one little outlier, but most of them are right here in my honey hole. This is what you need, guys. If you're sending yellow letters just anywhere and everywhere, it's not going to stick. If you're putting bandit signs up just anywhere and everywhere, you're not going to get the right calls. All right. And this is where so many people mess up because they don't spend the time in the beginning to figure out where they need to be. They just start saying, "I'll take anything and everything." So I have an exercise that will help you determine where you need to be, where you're going to have the highest success quickly, which will give you the momentum to slingshot into other deals. All right. So this is a honey hole, and you need a honey hole. You can also take the road less traveled. So this is a student, a lady that's in First Deal Done Fast with me, and she owned a cleaning business. She was a cleaning lady for vacation rental houses in Gatlinburg. And this was her very first deal. All right. She'd been with me for about 3 months. She bought a $300,000 vacation rental property with no money down, just that $10 again. She had 90 days to make her payment, and she has 15 years to pay this thing off. It's like a dream come true for anybody on their first deal. Like, I'm so proud of Sherry for doing this one. This property, she pays about $1,500 a month. But since it's a vacation rental, it's a short-term rental, it brings in between $10,000 and $15,000 every single month. Now, tell me, would you trade $1,500 a month in a payment for the opportunity to make $10,000 to $15,000 every single month by managing this property? I know I would. That's fantastic. And she had 3 months to get it rocking and rolling before her first payment was due. Like, this is outstanding. And we see deals like this happening in First Deal Done Fast all the time. So let's talk about your online friends. All right, your offline friends are pretty cool, but it is so easy to start getting leads from your online friends. All you got to use is Facebook. That's how I got that first kitchen. The prison kitchen that I flipped came right from Facebook. Another deal that I signed the same day that I got that one under contract was a deal with my sorority sister. She saw that I was buying houses and she was wanting to move houses. She didn't want to have to list, and she just wanted somebody to take over her payments so that she could move on and live her life. I made $8,000 for helping her move and making it simple because she saw me on Facebook. My cousin with the prison kitchen saw me on Facebook. There are so many people on Facebook, and if you will just entertain them and educate them a little bit, you'll keep a full pipeline, and you won't have to send any yellow letters. You won't have to hang any bandit signs. You won't have to do any Craigslist posts. There's enough people on Facebook for you to do a deal every single month. This is a message I got from Janine, who started with me and immediately started implementing what I teach about Facebook. And she said, "Oh my gosh, you're a genius." One of her sorority sisters, Janine lives in California, one of her sorority sisters that was living in Virginia saw her post and sent her a message and said, "We hate being landlords. Please take this property from us." Now, they just put some new tenants into that property, so it'll be a minute before Janine gets this one under contract. But that's how you can get deals done if you live in those really, really hot markets. All right, Janine lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. She can't get anything close to her done, but she was using Facebook and her friends all across the country, and she's getting this deal in Virginia done. This stuff totally, totally works, y'all. Daisy is in New Mexico, and she is actually a real estate agent in New Mexico. She started putting posts out on Facebook, just on her personal page, not on a paid page, not boosting ads, not doing anything complicated. She just started telling her friends on Facebook what she was looking for. She sent me one message after this one. She was like, "How do I make it stop? There's so many leads coming in." I said, "Don't stop, girl. Roll with it." And I actually talked to Daisy earlier this week. She has gotten 3 houses under contract in the last month. She's never sent out a yellow letter. She's never done bandit signs. And she has 3 houses under contract right now that she's getting owner financing on. And she expects to make over $100,000 off these 3 deals. She has no money in marketing. She has $10 invested in 3 deals. That's $30 in case you have a Tennessee public education. $30. And she's expecting to make $100,000 off these properties. Oh, that gives me goosebumps. Are you excited? Like, these ladies are getting these deals done all over the country, y'all. All over the place. I'm so proud of them. And Leslie, I got to tell you about Leslie too, because Leslie started with me in September last year, and she sent me this picture on November the 1st. So like 7 weeks after she started with me, she got 2 duplexes under contract and sold them. She actually did a wholesale, which is not something that I really promote, but I teach you how to do that. She wholesaled 2 duplexes and made $12,000 in 7 weeks. Then she kept going, and by December, she'd closed 4 deals and made $40,000. She didn't even put $10 into these properties to get them under contract, y'all. She only put $1 down on each property and collected over $40,000 in less than 3 months after starting First Deal Done Fast. Leslie is still with me, and she's still doing deals. And the last time I talked to her, she had apartments under contract. She's moved on from houses, and she's now buying apartments. And she told me in the 7 months she's been with me, she's averaged $10,000 a month. She's made $70,000 since she started with me back in September. I love, love, love these stories. I'll tell you, Leslie was a stay-at-home mom before she started with me. So these are ladies from all over the country, all over the spectrum. From Sherry owned her own business. Daisy was a real estate agent. Janine has a fancy corporate desk job. Leslie was a stay-at-home mom. These ladies are getting their deals done because they tapped into their why. They started following their leads, and they let their friends and family know what they were doing. Y'all, I love teaching women financial freedom. I love teaching women how to get these deals done. I love teaching women how to create $10,000 a month, how to grow that to $20,000 a month, and have it all on autopilot. Autopilot. Now, why do I only want to teach women? Well, because there's not a lot of women in real estate teaching women. In fact, I think I'm the only person teaching real estate to women specifically. And it's because we speak a different language, y'all. We're different. We understand things differently. We ask different questions. We process things differently. And also because I've been there. As a young lady trying to start in real estate, I've had sellers tell me, well, we'll negotiate with you when your husband gets there. What? I've had other sellers say, so is your daddy going to co-sign on this for you? What? No. This is 2018. I'm doing these deals. I'm making this money. I can be a real estate investor, and I can do it all super smooth, super simple, and super fast. So I'm here to really encourage other women to get into these deals. I'm here to encourage women that they can do this and that they should have $10,000 and $20,000 months. I love helping women get started in real estate, or really bump up what they've been doing in real estate as well. So I want you to imagine for a second, if you were doing just 1 deal a month, and because I teach women, I also understand that women have so many things going on that they just can't add another thing, right? So one reason that women tell me they don't get started in investing is because, the guys, the gurus, they're telling them that they have to do, 500 letters a week, and they have to dedicate 50 hours a week, and they have to talk to 75 different sellers, and they have to be constantly doing this and constantly doing that. And oh my gosh, no. Ain't nobody got time for that. All I want you to do is 1 deal a month. That's it. 1 deal a month. Because if you can do 1 deal a month and make a $10,000 non-refundable option fee, which is what I'll teach you how to do with the lease options in First Deal Done Fast, and you can create $300 a month by keeping that property. So you'll pay, let's say $800, but you can rent this property for $1,100. You're creating $300 a month out of thin air, right? If you will do this, if you will commit to 24 months, just 2 years, that's going to be $240,000 that you're going to make in non-refundable option fees. And you'll be bringing in $7,200 every single month in rent. Most of you could replace your income on a guaranteed $7,200 a month in rent. Most of you aren't making $240,000 a year anyway. Some of you want an additional $100,000 a year. And that's what we can do with these option fees. If you do this for 3 years, or if you get $500 a month, then these numbers totally look better. And that's what I want for you. This is how you get financial freedom, is because you can have the freedom to spend time with your friends and your family and your loved ones and hang out with your kids and do all the things that you want to do instead of all the things that you feel like you have to do. Real estate investing is totally possible for you. And that's why I have First Deal Done Fast. First Deal Done Fast was created for ladies like you who want to get their first deal done, who want to have the confidence to make offers, want to have the system in place so it doesn't take them 115 years to get their money back. First Deal Done Fast is for you. So whether it is your actual first deal or whether it's just your first deal with me, there's lots to learn in First Deal Done Fast. Now, Whitney Buys Houses is based on this Bible verse. It says she goes to inspect a field and she buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. Proverbs 31:16. We've all heard of being a Proverbs 31 woman, right? But nobody takes the time to really explain verse 16. So my definition of verse 16 is this is a lady who has it going on. She understands her market. She's found her honey hole. She knows what the land is worth, and she buys it. With her money that she's using with all these other things that she's doing, all of her other ventures, she plants a vineyard. She leaves a legacy. She creates generational wealth for her kids and her grandkids and everybody that comes behind her. That's what a Proverbs 31 woman should do. A Proverbs 31 woman is a real estate investor. All you need is that first field. All you need is that first deal. You get that first deal done, and then the others just come easier and faster, and you get better and better. The checks get bigger and better, and it just explodes from there. So I've shown you a couple of the ladies that this works for. And these ladies that get into First Deal Done Fast are small business owners. They are stay-at-home moms. They're corporate ladies with 9-to-5 jobs who want to supplement their retirement or supplement their kids' college fund. They're accountants, they're doctors, anyone really who wants passive income, wants to become a real estate investor, and wants to do it and have some fun in the process. In First Deal Done Fast, all of the hard work has been done for you. I've been to the training seminars. I've been to the boring boot camps. I've taken all of that and I've made it work for today's lady, for today's busy mom. I figured out how to get a system in place so that the ease of implementation is ready for you and you can speed up your results so that you can go from being a stay-at-home mom to making 70 grand in 7 months, so that you can go from chasing clear to close to adding $100,000 a year in the first 5 months to your income. That could be an extra $100,000. First Deal Done Fast was created with you in mind. So, y'all want to go back to my love story a little bit? If you have any questions, this is a good time to post the questions in the comments so that I can see them and answer your questions for you. So, when we last left, Jason and I broke up in the Krispy Kreme parking lot. But like so many stories and like so many good guys, 2 weeks later, he was back grilling ribs on my back porch, bringing me Krispy Kreme donuts and a bouquet of flowers with his tail between his legs, admitting defeat. And 2 weeks after he very humbly apologized for being such a dumbass, we were in apartment training class together. And we bought our first set of our 3 apartment complexes in March. And then by October, we closed the biggest deal of our lives. So ladies, I'm telling you, you can have the real estate, you can have the man, you can have the cash flow, you can have everything that you want. All you got to do is get started. Go to firstdealdonefast.com. Firstdealdonefast.com. I'll send you some of these ugly little buttons that are sure to generate some leads, and I'll be there with you to help you get your deals done fast. I'll send you this welcome package full of stuff for you so that you can get rocking and rolling and get your deals done fast. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I've had a blast. I hope you've learned a lot. I'm going to check the comments and questions right now, see if anybody has any, and we'll get rocking and rolling from there. Uh-oh, wrong video. I want you to imagine for a second. All right. Ruth Ann is excited about the lease options, and we got some other yeses in the comments. I don't see any questions. So if you do have any questions, you can leave a comment here. You can also send me a message, or you can go to, you can either go to whitneynicely.com or you can go to firstdealdonefast.com. I'll put that back up right here. It's right up at the top. firstdealdonefast.com. firstdealdonefast.com. You can get started today, tonight. I'll get your welcome package in the mail tomorrow, and I'll add you to our student group so that you can be there for our monthly deal makers calls, where I help the ladies in First Deal Done Fast make 3 offers on every property. And I do weekly questions and answers. So I'm actually in there with you every week. First Deal Done Fast isn't self-study. I'm there to hold your hand if you need your hand held. I'm there to kick you in the skirt if you need a little bit of push getting started. But I'm there to cheer you on, and so is everybody else in First Deal Done Fast. We would love to have you join us. Go to firstdealdonefast.com and get started today. Bye, y'all.